You ever catch a glimpse of yourself in a store window and think, that woman looks familiar, but I'm not sure she's still me? Hair, at our age, carries more than strands. It holds memory, it holds mood. It can weigh us down or quietly lift us up. And sometimes, all it takes is one thoughtful change to feel lighter, clearer, even a little more ourselves again. Just last spring, my friend Joanne, she's 66 and a retired librarian from Vermont, told me she hadn't changed her haircut since her daughter's high school graduation. That girl's now a mother of 2. I just stopped thinking about it, she said, like my hair was something I had to manage, not enjoy. So we booked her a quiet morning at this tiny studio in town, soft jazz, chamomile tea, and a stylist who listened more than she snipped. By the time Joanne walked out with her new soft bob, barely grazing the collarbone, she looked relaxed. And for the first time in years, she said, I feel seen. So today, let's start there. Not with trends, but with truth. With cuts that reflect who you are now and who you're still becoming. You know that quiet moment when you pass by a mirror, not expecting much, then pause, just for a second, because something feels off. The hair doesn't lift the way it used to. It sits flat, or worse, stiff. And you wonder, when did my hair stop moving with me? For so many of us over 60, our hair becomes a bit of a mystery. It thins, shifts texture, sometimes feels coarser, sometimes too soft. It's like learning to dress a body that's gently, silently changed its shape. But here's the gentle truth. Your hair hasn't betrayed you. It's just speaking a different language now. And when we learn to listen, to choose cuts that work with the texture, not fight it, we don't just look better, we feel more ourselves. Let me tell you about Donna, a retired piano teacher I met during a trunk show in Asheville. She had this naturally wavy hair, but always wore it pulled back tight, like she was still in front of her students. I feel practical, she said with a shrug. But underneath that shrug, I saw the hesitation, the quiet longing. So I asked her gently, what would it feel like to let your hair move again? Her eyes welled up. No one had asked her that before. The next week, she sent me a photo, her soft silver waves cut into a long layered bob, framing her cheeks. She wrote, for the first time in years, I feel like my reflection is humming the same song I am. You see, texture is memory. It's our laugh lines translated through strands. And as we age, embracing texture means making peace with what's real. No more trying to iron it out, flatten it into submission, or hide it under pins. When we let it move, when we allow softness, bounce, and flow, it's like letting joy back into the mirror. For finer hair, that might mean feathered layers to create lift. For waves and curls, dry cutting so the stylist sees how it actually lives on your head. And for hair that feels dull or heavy, a blunt base with subtle interior shaping can bring back dimension without the fluff. I remember the first time I let go of my old, rigid blowout routine. I used to spend 45 minutes every other morning with a round brush and arms aching by the end. One afternoon, I caught my reflection in the window of a cafe, my hair soft, moving slightly with the breeze. And you know what I thought? This feels like me again. Not the version trying to keep up, but the one who's finally arrived. Here's something I tell my clients. Hair that moves brings energy to a face that knows who she is. You don't need volume everywhere. You need movement where it matters. Around your eyes, at your neckline. Just enough to say, I still have stories to tell. So if you've been feeling flat inside or out, start with texture. Reclaim softness. Let the wind play again. Movement in your hair brings movement to your spirit. Now that your hair is ready to move again, the next step is knowing where it should fall. Let's talk about the shape that lifts, softens, and flatters without ever trying too hard. When was the last time your hair felt like it was moving with you, not against you? I'd love to hear. Have you ever looked at a photo of yourself and thought, my hair's fine, but why does my face look so tired? It's not always about the lines or the makeup. Sometimes it's the way your haircut falls, or doesn't. And the truth is, after 60, a few centimeters in the wrong place can shift how the world sees us, and how we see ourselves. That's why shape matters more than length. A cut that honors the natural curves of your face, your cheekbones, your jawline, your eyes, can lift everything, almost like a soft smile that never leaves. It's not about cutting more, it's about cutting right. Let me tell you about Lorraine, a retired park ranger I met in Bozeman. Her hair had been one length for decades, shoulder length, neat, reliable, as she called it. But she always wore sunglasses on her head, even indoors. I asked her why. She said, because they draw attention up. That stayed with me. So I invited her to try something simple, a gentle frame around her eyes, just enough to guide the gaze toward her smile. She kept the length, but added softness at the cheek and a subtle angle toward her jaw. The next time I saw her, the sunglasses were gone. And her eyes? Bright and open, like a story waiting to be told. See, many of us fall into the trap of safe cuts. Same length all around, straight across, no shape. But that often drags the face down, especially when our skin begins to soften. What we need instead is balance. Light near the temples, lift near the crown, curve around the chin. These shifts are small, but they carry weight. Emotional weight. Because when your haircut honors the architecture of your face, it does more than flatter. It affirms. It says, this is where I glow. Whether you're working with an oval, square, or heart-shaped face, there are ways to guide the eye, soften tension points, and open up the features that tell your story best. Personally, I used to think bangs were too much fuss for my age. But then one spring, after a long gray winter, I asked my stylist to give me a few face framing wisps. Nothing heavy. And suddenly, I saw softness. Not youth exactly, but warmth. Like a door had quietly opened. That tiny shift in shape brought life back to my reflection. It's not the length that makes a cut elegant. It's where it listens to your face. So before you think about inches, think about features. What do you want to highlight? What do you want to soften? You don't need to change everything. You just need to shape what's already beautiful. Now that we've honored the face, let's talk about time. Specifically, how your haircut can fit into your day without feeling like a second job. Do you feel like your current haircut really listens to your face, or is it just there? I'd love to hear your thoughts below. Do you ever catch yourself tilting your head forward just a bit more in the mirror, as if trying to find your hair? It's there, of course, but thinner now, lighter, and sometimes it feels like your hair is fading just a step ahead of your confidence. Many women over 60 tell me the same thing. My hair used to have life. Now it just sits there. But here's the truth. Fine hair doesn't mean fragile, and thin doesn't mean lifeless. What it needs isn't more product or more teasing. It needs intention, a shape that lifts, a length that breathes, and layers that float, not weigh down. A few summers ago, I met Diane, 67, former ballet teacher, quiet but graceful even in her sneakers. Her hair was baby fine, and she'd been wearing it pulled back in a ponytail for years, convinced it was too thin to wear down. I asked her, "What if we didn't fight your texture, just gave it room to dance?" We gave her a soft, stacked cut in the back, with feathered layers that kissed her cheeks. The crown had just enough lift to frame her face, not flatten it. She told me later, "For the first time in a decade, my reflection felt like mine again, not a version hiding behind elastics and practicality." Here's the thing about volume. It doesn't have to scream. It just needs to lift gently where gravity has started to settle. Strategic layers near the crown, texture through the ends, and a bit of lightness at the sides. It creates movement, even if your strands are fine. And choosing the right length helps too. Too long, and the hair pulls down. Too short, and it risks looking stiff. But mid-length, just grazing the collarbone with softness around the face, that's where grace lives. I used to load my hair with mousse, flip it upside down, blast it with heat, hoping volume would show up if I just insisted hard enough. But when I stopped forcing and started listening, choosing a cut that embraced softness instead of chasing thickness, my mornings got simpler and I felt more like me. Real volume isn't loud, it's confident. So if your hair's been feeling a little quiet lately, maybe it's not asking for more noise, just a more thoughtful shape. One that lifts you gently, the way a good hug does. And that brings us to something many of us shy away from: gray. Not just the color, but what it means. In the next part, we'll talk about how embracing silver can feel like stepping into light, not fading from it. How do you feel about your hair's volume these days? Are you trying to reclaim it or learning to embrace its new rhythm? I'd love to hear where you're at. Do you ever stare at your reflection in the mirror, brush in hand, and think, is all this still worth it? Maybe it's a humid morning. Maybe your hands ache a little from arthritis. Or maybe, just maybe, you're simply tired of the unspoken rule that says looking elegant must be earned through hours of effort. There's a belief we've carried, often without realizing, that beauty demands labor, that simplicity is somehow lazy. But here's what I've come to understand, especially after turning 60. Ease isn't the opposite of elegance. It's the expression of a woman who knows herself. I met Denise last fall at a small outdoor arts fair in Santa Fe. She had the most lovely, natural gray waves that fell just below her chin, and they moved in the wind like silk ribbons. We got to talking, and she laughed as she told me she used to spend 30 minutes each morning wrangling her curls into something presentable. But after retiring from teaching 3rd grade, she asked herself, who am I doing this for? So she worked with a local stylist to find a layered cut that honored her natural shape. No straightening, no round brush, just moisture, a little defining cream, and air dry. It gave me my mornings back, she said. And strangely, it gave me back a piece of myself. That's the thing about a truly thoughtful haircut. It respects your time. It adapts to your energy. And it doesn't ask you to perform. Whether you're tending your garden, running errands, or catching up with a friend over coffee, you feel composed, without fuss. For women with finer or thinning hair, I often recommend soft shaping around the crown and light underlayers near the nape. It creates movement and a gentle lift without needing hot tools. For women with natural curls, a dry cut that follows the curl pattern means fewer surprises in the morning and more days that feel easy. And if your hair is coarser or wiry, blunt ends combined with a bit of weight can help reduce puffiness and make it easier to manage. These are not shortcuts. They're choices made with intention. In my own journey, I've gone from sleek bobs that demanded blowouts to textured crops that fall into place without coaxing. These days, I wake up, fluff with my fingers, and step into the day with quiet confidence. Because effortlessness can be deeply elegant, especially when it reflects the peace you've cultivated inside. And I've seen it again and again when a woman releases the pressure to impress and chooses to dress, to groom, to care for herself in ways that serve her life. Something softens. She smiles more. She lingers longer. She feels more like herself. We don't need to prove our worth with a curling iron. We need space to be. And that space is sacred. Ease isn't laziness. It's knowing what matters and letting go of what doesn't. Now, once we've reclaimed ease in the way we care for our hair, there's another shift that happens. We start craving volume, not for drama, but for balance and vitality. Let's talk next about how to bring back fullness gracefully. And I'm curious, what's one part of your current hair routine you secretly wish you could skip? Somewhere between aisle 5 and the checkout lane at Target, have you ever found yourself pausing at the hair dye section, staring at the boxes, wondering, should I keep covering it up? Or is it time to just let it be? It's not really about gray or not gray. It's about what your reflection is telling you and whether it still feels like you. Hair color, for so long, was something we used to fix, to hide, to postpone a truth. But what if now, at this stage in life, it could become something else entirely? An intention instead of a reaction. Last winter, I spent a weekend in Portland visiting my niece. We ducked into a little French cafe on Hawthorne, and that's where I noticed a woman across the room. Early 70s, I'd guess. Her hair was silver. Not flat or chalky, but soft, dimensional, like pewter in candlelight. She wore a camel turtleneck, gold hoops, and a gentle confidence that made you want to know her story. My niece leaned over and whispered, "She's so cool. I hope I look like that one day." And I thought, no, not one day. This can be now. The truth is, silver isn't surrender. Warm blonde isn't denial. Choosing your hair color at 60 plus is not about chasing youth. It's about shaping how you want to show up in the world. Soft champagne, cool cocoa, a creamy ash. These aren't just shades, they're invitations. To speak softly or boldly. To blend in or stand proud. If you've embraced your gray, ask your stylist to add lowlights or a gloss to make the tone luminous, not dull. If you're still coloring, consider shades that complement your undertones, not just your past self. Harsh black or overly brassy blondes can weigh us down. But soft golds, cool silvers, or even rich mushroom browns can lift the face and brighten the eyes. I went silver slowly. A few years ago, I started by lightening my base and letting the white come through. It was scary at first. I was afraid I'd vanish. But the opposite happened. People saw me again. Not just the effort I put in, and there's such peace in no longer being between dye jobs. So here's what I've learned. It's not about covering up. It's about honoring the woman you are now through color that tells your truth. Whether that truth is soft, glowing warmth, or a cool silver that catches the morning sun. Hair color is no longer a mask. It's a mirror. What do you want it to reflect? Next, let's talk about something even more subtle, but just as powerful. The cut that brings all of this together. Because no color shines unless the shape supports it. And I'd love to know, what color makes you feel most like yourself today? You know that moment when you sit down in the salon chair and suddenly forget everything you meant to say? You had this picture in your head. A softer neckline, a bit more shape around the cheekbones, something that finally feels like you again, But somehow the words get tangled. And you walk out looking okay, but not understood. It's something I hear often. I never know how to ask for what I want. But your haircut should never be a compromise. It should be a collaboration, guided by your story, not just Caesar's. A friend of mine, Joyce, she's 67 now, shared something that stayed with me. She brought a picture of Jane Fonda to a new stylist, hoping for something graceful and modern. The cut was precise, the layers sharp. But Joyce didn't feel lighter. What she really wanted wasn't in the photo. It was in the feeling she couldn't quite name. Something that moved gently when she laughed. Something that matched the quiet calm she's finally come to embrace. That moment taught me something. The secret to a great haircut isn't just in the reference picture. It's in the words you choose. It's in the courage to share how you want to feel, not just how you want to look. Try this next time. Instead of saying, just a trim, say, I want something that feels softer around my jawline. Or, I'd love more movement here, especially when the wind catches it. Or even, I want to feel open again, not hidden. And please, don't be shy about saying the word elegant. It's not about being fancy. It's about being clear. It tells your stylist that you're not chasing trends. You're choosing peace, balance, and beauty on your own terms. I always bring 2 or 3 reference photos, not to copy, but to explain. I'll say, see how this cut lifts the cheekbones gently? Or, I like how this part rests just at the collarbone. A good stylist won't just ask how short you want it. A good stylist will ask how you want to feel when you walk out the door. And that, my dear, is when magic happens. The most powerful haircut starts with a feeling, not a photo. Now let's take this feeling of clarity and bring it into something just as personal. Color. Shall we talk about silver, gold, and every shade in between? What words do you wish you'd said in that salon chair years ago? Have you ever looked at your reflection? Not just to fix your hair, but to ask yourself quietly, do I still recognize her? It's not about chasing youth. It's about reconnecting with the woman who's been growing stronger, softer, and wiser with every season. The truth is, every gentle layer, every thoughtful shape, every silver strand embraced with intention, it's not just a haircut. It's a reclaiming of space, of presence, of dignity. I remember being at my granddaughter's piano recital last spring. I was wearing my soft, layered bob, freshly trimmed, feeling light but grounded. A woman sitting next to me, around my age, leaned in and said, "You look so calm. I miss feeling that way." I smiled, because I knew exactly what she meant. That calm doesn't come from the mirror. It comes from making choices that honor where we are now, not where we once were. That's what elegant hair means to me. It's not about impressing anyone. It's about putting your hand to your hair in the morning and whispering, I like who I've become. So as we wrap up, here's what I invite you to carry forward. Don't let anyone reduce you to trends or rules. Let your haircut be a reflection of how you move through the world, with intention, with grace, with quiet confidence. Maybe for you that's a long pixie that opens your face to the sun. Maybe it's a chin-length bob that lifts with every laugh. Or maybe it's silver waves that shimmer like soft silk in the afternoon light. Whatever you choose, let it be yours. Not what you should wear, but what makes you feel seen, held, and home in your own beauty. True elegance begins the moment we stop apologizing for who we've become. And if you're still unsure where to begin, just start small. Book a consult. Run your fingers through your hair and ask what it's truly telling you. There's no rush. This chapter is yours to write, strand by strand. So tell me, what kind of haircut feels like you today? Something you've loved for years? Or something new calling your name? Let's talk in the comments below. I'd love to hear your story.